What's up, guys? So, more news from Motorsport Games. I wasn't going to cover this because I'm not an IndyCar guy, but, I might as well see this through to the end. And the Motorsport Games is basically dead in the water. They're just delaying an official announcement. But we're going to look at Mike Straw's article at Insider Gaming. So, full credit goes to Mike Straw at Insider Gaming. So, let's take a look at this. IndyCar terminates agreement with Motorsport Games. The IndyCar game from Motorsport Games is officially dead. An SEC filing from November 8th that was made public on November 14th confirms that the racing organization is terminating its two licensing agreements with the Miami-based developer. The news of the termination comes after the game's status was up in the air when Motorsport Games laid off the entire development team at its Australian studios. Indycar LLC stated that its decision to terminate the Indycar license agreements was due to the company's alleged future failure to satisfy certain of its obligations under the Indycar license agreements, including making IndyCar Racing Series video gaming products available in the United States and facilitating a minimum number of IndyCar Racing Series esports events. In each case, as specified in the applicable IndyCar license agreement. The filing reads. In addition, the filing states that Motorsport Games is evaluating the validity of IndyCar LLC's notice of termination, including demands for certain payments under the IndyCar license agreements, as well as the company's options under the IndyCar license agreements. So, this doesn't seem to be mutual. Evaluating the validity of IndyCar LLC's notice of termination. So it seems to me like they're dragging their feet. They're trying to contest it, I guess. I don't know how or why you would do that. I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. The termination of the license agreements, which were signed in July 2021, is effective immediately. Motorsport Games has now sold the NASCAR license to iRacing, which we already know about, while also losing its agreements with BTCC and IndyCar. So, their three biggest licenses are gone. The company remains in debt without the funds to continue on for the next few months, a sign that things may continue to get worse for the studio. I don't know how much worse it can get. They're dead in the water. I just think they're trying to squeeze whatever they can out, like contesting this. This is strange. But the point is, here's what I wanted to say. NASCAR, the entire way, just stood by silently, right? Now, I know that behind the scenes they were talking to Motorsport Games. They weren't happy with the way things were going. But they didn't do anything about it. And I told you guys, I'm sure a lot of you remember, how many times did I tell you that when you draw up these agreements, there is always a back door, a way out. You don't just blindly sign away or sign into something where you don't have an escape clause of some kind, a way of pulling out if things don't work out. And I questioned that the whole way through. I told you guys, I'm like, why is NASCAR not? There has to be an out clause of some kind. And everybody was like, oh, no, because this, because that. They have to like fucking, they have to wait and they have. And I'm like, it just didn't feel right to me. Look at IndyCar. They came in much later and they got out. In fact, it tells you here, Motorsport Games is evaluating the validity of IndyCar LLC's notice of termination, including demands for certain payments under the IndyCar license agreements. So they're contesting it. I guess they owe IndyCar money, and there's some kind of, I think that's why they're contesting it. They just don't want to pay. They don't have money, and whatever money they do have, they don't want to pay. They didn't pay developers that put work in other studios. So what makes you think they're going to want to write checks to IndyCar? This is a scam company. It's either a scam, or it is one of the worst run businesses I've ever seen in the gaming industry. Everything you could screw up, they've screwed up, right? So they're just fighting, yeah, because they're gonna make it difficult. Like, you can only squeeze so much out of a turnip. So yeah, but like I said, don't tell me NASCAR, with their resources and their lawyers, they couldn't find a way to pull out sooner. They let this thing drag out to the very end. In fact, as you guys already know, they were able to make like somewhere over $6 million for selling the license to iRacing, which I think iRacing just, they could have waited, but I think for their plans for the future, they've said, just write them a fucking check so we can get started on this, because we want to get the ball rolling. And maybe to them, it was worth giving these guys $6 million. They could have waited. But I still don't, to this day, understand why NASCAR couldn't do what IndyCar is doing here. And by the way, if it goes to court, it goes to court. I don't see what leg Motorsport Games has to stand on. This might be a bluff, but IndyCar pulled out. BTCC is out. Why did NASCAR just never pull out? They allowed Motorsport Games to have them in a stranglehold, and they were able to extort money from the license. I'm sure there were details I'm not privy to, but still, it doesn't make sense to me. It never did, and I told you guys from day one, this is exactly what I kept saying. Why is NASCAR not doing this? And if they want to contest it in court, so be it. It just really looks bad for NASCAR, in my opinion. As a gamer, like, what the fuck are these people doing with these licenses? I do feel good about iRacing, and but you always have to have skepticism in any business. And while I'm sure we are in better hands and things will get better in the future, there's no guarantee. You never know. And from NASCAR's side of things, I've been telling you guys for years now, the way they handle their licensing, the video game side of NASCAR, they've been out of sight, out of mind. It's like they make an agreement, they collect the check, and they sit back, they don't get involved, and this is what we end up with. So I'm just glad NASCAR is out of Motorsport Games' hands, but as you could see here, this is exactly what I've been talking about for years. I told you guys, even though Captain Sleeveless told everyone that he was so confident in IndyCar, the game, and by the way, these screenshots they showed people, this playable state that people were talking about, I suspect, this is just speculation on my part, all they did was cobble together a demo. Okay? A tech demo. A tech demo and a game are two different things. You can create a tech demo which is very limited. By the way, the game was already announced to be limited. There was never a career mode. It was just jump in and race. So what I suspect was they must have taken assets from Forza, not Forza. I'm sorry, the R Factor, okay, and they polished it up a bit. They cobbled together a tech demo. They showed a few investors, a couple of people. They got the word out that hey, the game it's playable. You know, Captain Sleeveless told you it was playable, right? So I suspect it was nothing more than a tech demo. Because if this game really was as far along as they say it was, why would IndyCar not just say, okay, you have to release, if this game really is playable, release something. We got to recoup something. And plus, Motorsports Games being so desperate for cash, wouldn't they release a product? Even if it was fucking half-assed? Like, they already did that before. I'm personally, like I said, from day one, I would never release an unfinished or broken product. But we're talking about Motorsport Games. We're talking about a company that is already underwater. Everyone's waiting for them to finally close completely. Why, if they have a playable product, why not just fucking cobble together, even if it is the most basic thing, release it. Take your fucking lumps. What do you have to lose at this point? Plus, you could actually show in court, hey, we released an officially licensed product. So they can at least, whatever, disagreement they have with IndyCar, they could at least show, look, we did something. They didn't do that. That's why I suspect they never really had a playable game. Like, there's a difference between a game and a tech demo. And you really need to know the difference. We've seen playable tech demos in the past. Sometimes free to play. You can download a demo of a game that's being worked on. And the game is like 2-3 years away. So that's my interpretation of all this. This IndyCar game that people told us, it's already deep in development and it's playable and then where is it? We heard this a year ago. Almost a year ago. They released like 3 or 4 screenshots and that's it. So I suspected the whole time these people are just full of shit. It's all marketing. It's all bullshit. So whatever people, and when I say people, who are these people? It's insiders in the industry. Maybe they, or some investors or people connected to investors. Whoever actually got to see it and get their hands on it, they were just playing a fucking tech demo that was cobbled together from like R Factor. Or whatever. And they were told, oh, we got this whole new engine and it's a whole new thing. And yeah, we're using the engine from Kartcraft and it's going to be this and it's all this. New CEO, nothing changed. He hasn't changed anything. It's the destiny of this company was set in stone. And I think Stephen Hood probably just came on saying, it's a sinking ship. I'm going to get mines. Because they let him go early in the life of this company. The one guy that I said from day one, he's the only one with actual verifiable game development experience. Running a company that's making games. Coming from Codemasters. Why would you let him go? They held on to the bullshit artist, Dimitri. They let him run everything. Instead of the guy with the experience. I told you guys from the start, I'm not surprised about where it's ended up. Stephen Hood, he knew what he was coming into. He said, I'm going to come in there, I'm going to bullshit just like the guy that was here before me. But he got his, I'm going to get mine. Let this company fucking fail, but I'm going to leave here with something. That's what I think happened. It's just speculation on my part, but I can read shit. I can read into things. You guys can decide for yourself what my record is when I speculate. But I've been clear, it's just my opinions on stuff. But this never smelled right. And this just reminds me. Like from day one, I kept saying, why is NASCAR just sitting there? Why aren't they doing anything? There's always a way out. It's just a matter of the lawyers working this out, whatever. And NASCAR just stood there. They did nothing. They just rode on with these guys. IndyCar, at least, they had enough. They're not going to stay, they're not going to ride the ship to the bottom of the ocean. They did whatever they needed to do. And if it goes to court, it goes to court. So what? That's pretty much all I have to say about this. But remember, guys, I don't know how anyone could look at this company ever at any point and say, I have full faith in this IndyCar game and the people working on it. It's just mind-boggling to me. That's all I got to say about this. Again, this is from Insider Gaming. Credit goes to Mike Straw. Thanks for keeping us updated on this stuff. These guys are just... it's insane. I don't enjoy talking about any of this anymore. I can't wait for iRacing to finally, at some point, give us at least some insight into what their plans are. Give me something positive to talk about. Yeah. So those are my thoughts. I look forward to your comments later.